let the woman die.
Just again, it's so cold and glazing your mind. It made me love it and begin again. It made me love it and begin again. You made me love it and begin again.
Hello, sinners. My name is Alice's Sin, and welcome to Alice's Shelf. Today, we'll be taking a look into Sylvia Plath's poem, Lady Lazarus. First and foremost, this is a trigger warning. We'll be talking about suicide. So let's start. A little bit about Sylvia Plath. She struggled with mental health issues for years, and she ended up committing suicide. And she talked a lot about it in her poetry. And in this poem, we'll see pretty shocking imagery connected to the topic. So let's start with the title, Lady Lazarus. It's obviously an allusion to the Bible's tale of Lazarus, whom assumedly Jesus would have brought back to life. So we already expect to talk about resurrection. However, the poem is about the speaker's burden of having resurrected, the speaker's burden of being alive. We have this speaker, which is Sylvia Plath, talking about how she already tried to commit suicide 3 times, once every decade. The first time she was 10 and she didn't mean to. The second time she wanted to die and not come back, and they brought her back, so she's infuriated with her lover and the doctor who brought her back because she wanted to die. But apparently she has 9 lives like a cat. And then there was the third time that led to this poem. And when we understand that she's infuriated at the doctor for having brought her back, she even calls the doctor enemy. We see this disregard and disrespect towards Plath's decision to die. She wants to die. And let's remember when we talked about a literature of their own, that during feminist literature, suicide was a weapon. It was a resource to go against the male society. And we have here male figures, the husband, the doctor, God, the devil, and all of them are stopping Plath from getting what she wants, which is death. And this is really interesting because in Lazarus' story, death is a bad thing, as it usually is, and the resurrection is a great thing. However, for Plath, death is relief. She uses the image of a shell. If she dies, she becomes a shell because she'll be protected from everything that's surrounding her. And we hear a lot about that, of suicide being like a last resource to escape the pain in the world. So on the other hand, she says that death is as peaceful as the waves in the ocean. So we get a glimpse of not only what goes on in Sylvia Plath's mind at that moment, but also at what goes on in the mind of a suicidal person. We have the image of death being a spectacle, of people watching. She's like, you have to pay to watch my skin, you have to pay to get my blood. So she's talking about how her life and her death and all of these sufferings of hers are turned into a spectacle. And how many times, think about Hollywood, we see terrible things happen in the life of people and they are turned into a spectacle. Another image we have is the image of skin. And the skin is seen by Plath as a representation of her life, because it's this place between our existence and whoever sees us. Everyone only sees us through our skin. In my case, a lot of layers of makeup, but usually skin. We have very, very strong images concerning the Holocaust. And they are used to build this extreme feeling that isolates our speaker. She talks about how her skin is like the Nazi lampshades. And this comes from this rumor that the Nazis would skin the Jews and use their skins to build lamps. And she also talks about being burned, and we can think of the cremation sets during the Nazi movement. And she also has a final image in which she says, and I quote, "I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, ash, you poke and stir. Flesh, bone, there is nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling." So these two final images, a wedding ring, a gold filling, concern the fact that usually after they kill the Jews, they would look for the tooth fillings, and wedding rings that they could melt and profit from. And the cake of soap talks about this rumor that they would use the fat of the Jews' bodies to make soap. The final image we have is the image of a phoenix. So she rises up and she says that she will eat men. And that is usually mistaken for a symbol of power, as if now she has risen and she's great and she'll like devour the world. That's not the real meaning of it, because a phoenix just keeps on resurrecting. So she's worse than a cat. She doesn't have 9 lives, she has a bunch of them, and she just wants to die. Concerning the form and the structure of the poem, it's built in 28 tercets. And during my research, I found two explanations for this choice. One would be that it refers to the Holy Trinity. I don't think so. The other one would be that it refers to the Divine Comedy from the Italian Renaissance by Dante Alighieri, which is built in terza rima. So it would be this connection with the ideas of heaven and hell, punishment and sin. And it also creates this forward and backward motion that would help enhancing this idea of cycle in her life. Could be. I think that she used tercets because it's the third time she tried to kill herself. Plain and simple. It's in the poem, and it says exactly what it means. Lastly, this poem was published in Ariel, a collection of poetry by Sylvia Plath that was published 2 years after she killed herself. I know that this was heavy, but art is supposed to be disturbing. I hope you enjoyed it. This was my first take on Sylvia Plath. I actually really liked it, and I want to get some more of it, but I hope it meant something to you. If you have suicidal thoughts, remember that there are lines and people you can call. You're not alone. There is a lot to life. Life's a sin.